What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court. I am Sean Murphy, and today, Monday, January 16th, we're talking all about the NBA trade deadline and what the Detroit Pistons could possibly be up to. But also, you might notice I'm in a new place. This is my brand new crib. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of content and streaming from here, and this place wouldn't be possible without the support of you guys. So I want to say thank you so much, and I am extremely grateful. But let's dive in, man, because there's a lot of news and things to discuss. Our guy, James Edwards III of The Athletic, dropped an article discussing everything that he is hearing around the NBA trade deadline, everything that could possibly be transpiring, and it appears that the Pistons are exactly where we thought that they would be. They're in a position where they're not necessarily looking to go into the trade deadline to hard set be sellers. They have prices for players that, if they're met, they wouldn't deny. However, they're not particularly in a position to want to move all of these players. Now, if we were to go into the order of the most to least likely to be moved, I would say it sounds from James's reporting that it sounds like Nerlens Noel is the most likely guy to be moved at the deadline. Both Noel and the Pistons, according to James, both think it would be best if a trade were to happen. They both, that would be the best thing for both sides, which, listen, I agree. The whole reason why he was here in the first place was, just in case, we needed to have him play some minutes in the beginning while Jalen Duren was bringing himself along. But as we've clearly seen, Jalen Duren is ready. So at this point, there's really not much of a reason to have Nerlens Noel on the roster. And according to James, it sounds like teams like the Denver Nuggets, the Miami Heat, solid contenders are looking for a guy with his services. Now, as far as what the Pistons can get back in return for a guy like Nerlens Noel, it's hard to project that because of the fact that this guy, as good of a player as he's shown that he can be, he had 4 blocks for the Pistons the other night. This is a guy, on the defensive end, when healthy, he's one of the better defensive bigs in the league. But again, it's going to come down to how often he can stay on the court. So I would imagine, for the Pistons, you're probably going to get, another rotation player, maybe a second round pick, that's down the line. But for the most part, your compensation for the Nerlens Noel, piece isn't going to be much. However, considering the fact that you got the player for free and that you essentially, acquired him in a salary dump deal so that the Knicks could go ultimately and get Jalen Brunson, that's really not bad, considering the fact that you're essentially getting him for free and you're getting something else in return. So not bad, but it sounds like the next guy that could most likely to be moved, and again, that I'm saying that loosely, is Bojan Bogdanovic, because all the things that we're hearing from James's reporting and all the consensus that we have is that the Pistons want to turn the corner next season, which all signs point to the Pistons wanting to turn the corner next season. First of all, you look at the fact that they're going to have a top 5 lottery pick this season that, that's just going to be another young player that's going to bring more talent to this roster. I know people have said, that if you bring on another young player, that's another year of you being bad. That's just not true. We saw teams like the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers last year turn a corner because of the lottery picks that they got. We saw the Oklahoma City Thunder this year not even add their lottery pick in Chet Holmgren and just add one of their other lottery picks in Jamison Williams. And, they've been playing really well. So, for them, I think the big thing is that it's all about the timeline and the development and where these players are in relation to that, right? And I think for the Pistons, you look at all signs, the salary cap that they're going to have available, the age and the maturity that these players are bringing with Killian and Isaiah Stewart with the improvement they've shown, that's only going to get better, as the seasons go on. Sadiq, what he could bring into next year, a healthy Cade Cunningham with a full summer to work on his game, which, according to the people that I've heard from, it sounds like he's going to be pretty ready to go in the summer to be able to work and get back into the gym. So all that together thrown in with the fact that you have a lot of salary cap room to address a lot of the holes and the things that are on this roster, they're not as far away as you would think or as it would seem at this current point. I know the basketball product on a night-to-night basis isn't always the best. However, the signs point to this team being ready to turn a corner potentially next season. And so with that, if you are going to be moving pieces, you have to be doing it for a good reason. And according to James, it sounds like the pretty dead set price for a guy like Bojan is a unprotected first round pick, which, listen, I think that is the perfect price for Bojan. An unprotected first round pick is a phenomenal asset to have in a trade discussion. It's a phenomenal asset to have, when it comes to comes to a draft. At some point, if it was a protected pick, I would have way more qualms, because at that point you don't know what it could convert into. There's kind of a ceiling of what that player could potentially be. But again, if you're going to get an unprotected first round pick, even that has different value for other teams. It's different if you get an unprotected pick, say, from the Milwaukee Bucks, than it is if you get an unprotected pick from the Sacramento Kings. Because if you get an unprotected pick from the Milwaukee Bucks, they have Giannis. Like, no matter what happens to the rest of their roster, at the end of the day, over the next 5 to 10 years, they're probably going to be okay as long as they have Giannis. Whereas a team like the Sacramento Kings, their roster's so built towards win now, win now, win now, win now. What's their plan next year? What's their plan the year after? What's their plan the year after that? You see what I'm saying? Like that is a team with a future that's way more uncertain. So therefore, if you were to get an unprotected first round pick from a team, say like them, or say what the Jazz did, this offseason, like from the Timberwolves, all the unprotected first round picks they got from them, that is where you find value, right? So if the Pistons are able to move Bojan to a team, say, like the Lakers, and get an unprotected pick from them, because those 2027 and 2029 first round picks that they currently are holding on to, the assets, really the only first round picks that they really, were able to keep after the Anthony Davis trade, those are considered some of the most valuable first round picks in the entire league. The Pistons were somehow in a position where they were able to land a pick like that. Absolutely. Bojan, it's a pleasure, but we're going to go and get one of those assets, because that can either help us in a trade, or that could potentially, be something I can convey down the line that's going to have value. That's something that's a chip that Troy Weaver can add into his arsenal to go and do something that he wants to do. But again, you have to make sure that that's what you're getting, because if there isn't the value, look at what Bojan's producing right now. At 33 years old, he's a borderline 50, 40, 90 candidate with everything that he's doing, shooting from beyond the arc, his free throw percentages, everything that he does. And with the type of game that he has, it's not necessarily predicated on his athleticism. And people are like, well, what if he doesn't do this same output next year? It's like, he's not going to. It's just not possible. First of all, the roster is going to be better next year. There's going to be more mouths to feed. Cade Cunningham's going to be back on the court. You're going to have whoever we're going to be drafting this upcoming year. If it's Victor Wembanyama, are you telling me Bojan's going to be having all those touches? Heck no. If anything, Bojan's going to potentially become a sixth man or a bench piece. And if that's a sixth man or a bench piece alongside a guy like Alec Burks, and that's your bench, are you telling me you're turning that away? There's value there. So that's why it has to be something that's really carefully considered. And that is why Troy Weaver is being conservative. And that's why he's taking a seat back, because he realizes that he has talent in the building. And with that, that's why he's more apprehensive on his other players as well. Alec Burks and Saddiq Bey, from the sounds of it, Alec Burks is going to be in Detroit unless something crazy happens, which, quite frankly, I am all for. Everything that we've seen from Alec Burks is that he is a bona fide bucket getter. Ever since he's come to the Pistons, they have been a different team. Their second unit went from being one of the lowest scoring benches in the entire league to instantly being the highest scoring in the league for a stretch when he came into the lineup. That's the type of value that he has. I mean, we saw that shooting stretch that he had against Orlando, against, I believe, Minnesota, where this guy only missed 2 shots in 2 games, and he took 20 shots. Alec Burks is insane. Quite frankly, he could be in Detroit for as long as he wants. That's a guy that has value. And with Saddiq Bey, very similar thing. Unless the Pistons are blown away or they get something that they can't refuse, I don't think there's a reason to move on from the young forward just yet. I mean, we've seen over the last few games, we've seen a stretch of improved play from Saddiq. We've seen the flashes of the Saddiq of old, who could get those really hot scoring stretches, who could shoot really well from beyond the arc, who could put up 30-plus point games and be one of the best scorers on the Pistons. Quite frankly, I know the record is not quite what we want it to be. I know this season wasn't the step forward that anyone would have expected it to be. But with everything in peace, there is no reason for this deadline to be a trade deadline where the Pistons have to be hardcore sellers, where they have to put themselves in position where they don't have veteran talent yet again. Because if the Pistons trade Bojan just for essentially nothing, where are we at? We just have more cap space and then, like this somewhat valuable asset. That's why, again, you have to make sure if you're going to do it, that there is a reason and that there is a plan. And if there's anyone that's going to have that plan, it's Troy Mother Weaver. We all know it. That's what he does. So I'm excited to see personally what can develop from the trade deadline. I would love to see the Pistons be aggressive in potential moves. I would love to see potential surprises, like even a Kyle Kuzma being in Detroit. I personally think he's going to go to a contender. I could see Phoenix being a team that could pick up his services, but there's a lot that can happen. But guys, that's not even all. In addition, on Thursday, we have the Paris game for Detroit as well, where they're going to be playing the Chicago Bulls in the house that Killian Hayes built. Hopefully, Victor Wembanyama is in attendance as well. Would absolutely love to see that. And I'm sure we're going to be doing something really fun for that game over at We're Pistons. So be sure that you're staying tuned for that. But also, what do you think the Pistons should be doing at this trade deadline? Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think the Pistons should keep all of these players? Do you think the Pistons should trade all of these players? What would you personally like to see Troy Weaver do? Let me know in the comment section down below. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.